Today on Stock Charts in Focus, we're digging into my own personal approach to organizing my chart lists. I'm going to show you exactly how I organize the chart lists in my own Stock Charts account for my approach to the market. I think it's going to leave you with some good tips, tricks, ideas for how to organize your own chart lists. So it's going to be a powerful episode as we put the tools into motion, really put them to work, show you how I use them in my own approach to the market. Plus, we're going to dig into Chart Madness, a new special that we have coming to Stock Charts TV next week. This is a special one too because we actually give you an opportunity to participate in this unique bracket challenge experience. So we're going to get into all of that. We got a packed show. Of course, you know what it is. It's all new. It's all here. It's Stock Charts in Focus. All right, my friends, welcome to today's show, Stock Charts in Focus. Of course, our product focus show here on Stock Charts TV, where we really dig into the tools, dive into the features, show you everything that's happening around the site to make sure that you're getting the most value possible out of Stock Charts. My name is Grayson Roze. I'm the Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com. If you've been with us for a long time, welcome back. If you are new to the show, welcome, welcome. It is so good to have you. This is going to be a fun episode. We're doing a couple of different things. We're actually building off of last week's episode. So if you missed that, go back, make sure you watch last week's episode. But in that episode, what we did was we really walked through chart lists. Of course, one of the most important features on Stock Charts, really kind of the heart and soul in a lot of ways of Stock Charts, the lifeblood of your account, the way that you organize and save and analyze all of your different charts. That's what chart lists are. So we walked through that on last week's episode. Really get to show you exactly how everything works, where things are, what all the buttons do, how to change names, all that good stuff. On this week, though, what we're going to do is kind of build off of that. I'm going to show you how I personally use chart lists in my own approach to the market in my own Stock Charts account. So it's going to be towards sort of taking those lessons that we learned last week, really putting them into motion this week. Plus, we are also going to show you Chart Madness. We're going to highlight this, give you a little preview of what's coming to Stock Charts TV next week. We've got a very special event, a bracket challenge event sponsored here by March Madness and everything going on there in the NCAA. So it's going to be fun. We got 4 experts going head to head, digging into a 16 stock bracket that we've put together to pick their winners at the end. And what's new is that we've actually given you a way to participate in this by making that bracket available to you before the show. So we're going to get into all of that. That'll be at the end of the show. First up, though, we're going to take a look at chart lists. So let's get right into it. So here we are starting on the members dashboard, and I'm starting here because this is actually one of the best places to come and see all of your chart lists. Now, when I come to this page, of course, the first one that you see when you log in to your Stock Charts account, when I come to this page and I want to access my chart list, I come right over here to the right side of the screen. I look for this chart list button. And when I give that a click, that's just going to scroll me right down to all of my lists. Now, my account might look a little bit different from yours because my account is at the pro level. If you're a basic member or an extra level member, all of those have different numbers of chart lists available to you. So things might look a little bit different. But in my case, I am a pro level member. So you can see that I have up to 350 chart lists available to me right now. And what we're going to do right now is just kind of walk through what all of these chart lists are in my account. I know I do this show quite a lot and I get people asking me, what are all these lists? You got tons and tons of chart lists. You can see there are 194, which seems a little crazy to people. But I've really created an organization to my chart list, an important sort of framework for how I organize them from the top down. So I wanted to share that with you guys and show you how I do, what I do, how I've organized these lists. There's some tips and tricks in here that I'm sure you'll pick up on that you might want to incorporate into your own approach to organizing chart lists and using stock charts to analyze the markets. Plus, a couple of these lists actually we're going to make available after the show. So if you are watching this on YouTube, we'll put some links down in the description below. a couple of these chart lists, especially the market evaluation ones that we're going to run through in just a minute, we can actually make those available to you on StockCharts. So if you're a member, you can actually download those right into your own account. So I'll show you how that works once we get into it. But as you can see, this is my chart list organization. I've got tons and tons of lists in here. We're going to run through it all. But it really does kind of break up into a couple of different groups. So we'll get into that right now. First and foremost, let's start up at the top. Now, I get a lot of people to ask me this, what is this tier 1 watch list? What does that mean, and why is it the first list in your account? Well, first up, you can see that I use a starring system to actually organize my chart list. By default in your account, this applies both to Sharp Charts and ACP. Where for the sake of today, we're just going to sort of look at Sharp Charts because we're going to do most of this on the dashboard showing you how I organize the lists. But all these same lessons, everything, it also applies over in ACP in our new advanced charting platform. So if you're over there, these same concepts, they all apply in ACP as well. But anyways, by default, your lists are going to be ordered alphabetically. We can sort of override that by using our own numbering system or our own starring system or a combination of both of those, which is kind of what you can see I've done here in my own account. So the quick trick that I have up at the top of my account, I have this list called a tier 1 watch list. You'll see that it's got 212 charts in it. It's got a ton of stuff. And the note on it is stuff I'm watching, because this really is just sort of stuff I'm watching. I like to call it, for lack of a better term, a dump bucket for stocks that I come across. But the key is that because I've made it the number 1 chart list in my account right up at the top, it's the only one that has 1 star by it. So it's automatically going to go to the top of the list everywhere around the site. It makes it really easy to access that list. So I'll show you how this works really quickly. We'll jump over to Sharp Charts. Let's say I was looking at Microsoft and I wanted to save this chart and put it into my tier 1 watch list. I kind of treat that, like I said, as just a dump bucket of stocks that intrigue me as I'm going through the markets. I see something that I like. I say, oh, I want to save that, come back to it, keep an eye on it. The first place I want to put that is just into my tier 1 watch list. From there, I can sort of filter it down, put it into other stocking lists, other buying lists when I actually get to that point, for instance. But right now, let's say I stumbled across Microsoft. I said, you know what, this is actually holding up pretty well. I want to put this onto my tier 1 watch list. Well, because I've made it the first list in my chart list sort of organization there, the only one that has 1 star by it, you'll see that on the Sharp Charts workbench, it's the first one that appears in that menu. So it makes it really, really easy to access that watch list. I don't have to go sort of searching through all of my chart lists to say, where's my watch list again? Which one was the one? Where is it again? All I have to do is come right here, hit save as. You'll see that it's automatically loaded in as the first list. I can hit add new, and there we go. I've saved that account really, really quickly and easily. So by creating this sort of tier 1 watch list as the first chart list in my account, it makes it a lot easier to save things into that watch list as I'm working through the markets. And I just want to kind of add things quickly without having to stop and search and find things in that big drop-down menu. So first up, I have that tier 1 watch list as the first one in my account. And again, I've used that starring system to keep it up there. It's the only one that has a star. From there on down, though, everything else in my account really is organized according to 2 things. I take a top-down approach to the market. So I'm looking at from the market into the sectors, into the industry groups, then into the individual stocks and my portfolios and all of those kinds of things. So you'll see that this organization that I have in my account really kind of mimics that. It really starts at the high-level market stuff, and it digs down from there into sectors and then into industry groups. Below that, I've got my portfolios. I've got the stuff that I actually own. And then below that, I've got a bunch of different watch lists and different sort of lists for organizing ticker symbols and groups and things like that. I've got some theme trade lists, which we're going to get into. There's a lot to cover there. But the key is that the first filter on my lists, sort of the organization to it, is that top-down approach going from the market down into the sector and industry group and then individual stock level. The other thing, though, is that I've built specific routines into my chart list organization. So anyone who knows me, anyone who's followed my approach to the market, you know that routines are big, big, big for me. That is ultimately the biggest thing about my approach to the market is maintaining routines, being disciplined, sticking to those routines. I've got daily routines, weekly routines, monthly routines, annual routines. In between there, I've got quarterly routines, lots and lots of things that I'm doing on a consistent basis. But some of the most important are my daily and my weekly routines. So I've actually built those weekly and daily routines into my ChartList organization so that it's really easy to come here. And when I'm on Sunday morning, I'm going through my weekly routines, my sort of Sunday portfolio review. It's really easy to get to those lists. Again, I don't have to go sort of scrolling up and down, searching for chart lists because they're ordered alphabetically. I've built in an organization, so I've got all of my weekly review routine lists right there together. So we can see that here at the top of the page. I have organized all of my weekly chart lists and my weekly review chart lists into sort of the first group in my chart list organization. Those all for me start with 2 stars. And then I've sort of organized them below that, ordered them in exactly the way that I want by using a numbering system. So I've got 2 stars to sort of claim the group. And then I've got a numbering system to make sure that these weekly chart lists are all in the correct order. So every week when I'm going through this, I actually just click through from top down. I don't have to go sort of jumping up and down the list. I just go from my market evaluation list right into the global equities list, right into the US equities list. And from there, it really does just kind of go down and down and down into the sectors, into the industry groups, all of that good stuff. So this starring system and the numbering system actually allows me to really custom order these lists. Now I can jump over here and show you what some of these look like. This review really isn't about sort of what the charts are. The review is more about the organization to those lists, but it makes it really easy. For instance, I can come to 10 per page every week. I can run through all of these charts in this 10 per page view. Here's my sort of, we're starting with that weekly market evaluation list. Here's my intermarket review that I do every week. Then I jump into sort of the major global equity markets in 3 buckets. These are Vanguard ETFs, actually pretty interesting. One is the total world, one is the total US, and then one is the basically the total world minus the US, total international market. So I can look at all of those. I look at emerging versus developed, the different market cap levels for the US. All of this I can just sort of scroll through, run through these charts in this list. And then when I'm ready to go on to the next list, after I've made my way all the way through this weekly market evaluation list, I click in here, and the next one up is that global equities list. So I can go from that sort of high level market evaluation right down into my global equities list. And because I have this organization in my chart lists, they're just sort of right there. I don't have to go sort of scrolling through saying, okay, wait, now I got to find the other one. No. I just got it right up there. And from there, I got my global equities list here with the total world and then the total international index, the EFA index. I've got developed markets, I've got emerging markets, all this stuff. So I run through sort of, what's the total landscape looking like. Then I want to dig into the US specifically. So again, I've got my US equities list, all weekly charts, by the way, right there. So this chart list organization, the key is not really the charts themselves. The key for this demo is this organization makes all of this really, really easy to access. You can see that because everything is just kind of right there at my fingertips, all I got to do is jump from one list to the next, and it's really, really easy to get there. So we're going to go back to the dashboard, run through the rest of this organization. So I've got my weekly routine lists here. Then I've got very similar lists, but on a daily time frame. So I've got some shorter term charts in a really similar organization. These are basically the charts that I look at every day. Again, I mentioned I look at this stuff on Sundays generally. Sundays are kind of my big portfolio review day. So my weekly lists are all really about the weekend review. The daily lists are all about my daily review. So when I get up in the morning and I'm watching the markets throughout the day, whether it's at the open or after the close, these are really the sort of the lists that I go to get a sense of what's happening in the markets. Again, it's market evaluation, sort of high level stuff. I got a lot of interesting charts in there. Then I jump into the global equities. How are those doing today? How are the US equity indexes doing today? Lots and lots of stuff. And I can jump down into different US indexes on shorter term time frames. So I go from 6 month down to 3 month down to 45 day. Then I jump into the sectors. Then I jump into the industry groups. And you can see that, again, because all of this stuff is neatly organized for me, it's really, really easy to access. So I've got sort of all of my high level market evaluation stuff right up at the top. I use 2 stars for my weekly stuff. I put my daily stuff below that with 3 stars, and then again, that numbering system. And that keeps everything nice and organized for me. Once I get through sort of my market evaluation stuff, once I'm done sort of saying, okay, how's the market doing? Let's gauge the health of the market, where the index is going, that kind of good stuff. The next thing that I want to care about is my portfolios, the stuff that I actually own. So in my case, I've come up with all these funny little nicknames for my different portfolios, but you can see that I have those right here. So all of these for me are specific portfolios that I own. Some of these are a little more on the nose, like retirement. That one makes sense to most of you probably. But I've got my different portfolios as a 4-star block. And you can see that because all of these have 4 stars, they're sort of the next group up. I've got all my portfolios right there below my weekly and daily routine lists. So again, makes it really easy to find my portfolios and keeps them all grouped together. Below that, I've got some of my more specific stocking lists. So I have stocking lists for breakouts, stocking lists for sort of trend targets. This list actually has grown pretty substantially. I've got some sort of what I call a year-end list. So I put this together for instance, at the end of 2020, just sort of a high level, what are some stocks, in this case, 20 stocks that I think are going to do well in 2021. I like to sort of watch those, keep an eye on them. 20 stocks that I'm really thinking are going to be strong this year. So anyways, all of those little sort of stocking lists for me, sort of the next phase down in my sort of watch list cultivation, if you will, those are all organized right here with, again, 5 stars. So I keep them all grouped together. I've got my 5-star stuff right there. And below that, I've actually got what I call my buying list. This is stuff that I'm really, really interested in actually buying. I keep another separate chart list for that. So you can see actually, as I kind of go back up here, the tier 1 watch list, kind of my first filter. I dump stuff in there, and then I'm constantly cultivating that, just sort of reviewing that, seeing what everything in that tier 1 watch list is doing. From there, I move stuff down into some of these different stocking lists. For instance, mostly I'm using that breakout stocking list or the trend target stocking list. But I move stuff down into there. And then the next filter down below that is when it actually goes onto the buy list, and I'm really considering taking a position in some of that stuff. But again, the organization here is key. Because I've got this starring system, all of these lists are really neatly organized for me, and they're very accessible. I know exactly where they are every time that I'm sort of jumping back and forth between lists as I'm working with them. I know exactly where everything is. It's really easy to find all of these chart lists. From there, I've got a whole bunch of other sort of stocking adjacent lists. These are kind of spread across a few different concepts and a few different objectives. So we'll get into these right now. I'll show you how those work as well. First up, I love running scans for new 52-week highs. I think that new 52-week highs are one of the most important signs that you can see from a stock. A new 52-week high inevitably is a sign of strength. When you see something breaking out to a new 52-week high, that is a setup that I love to look for. So I did an episode actually on this quite a while ago. We can maybe put a link in the YouTube description to it. But for instance, I run new 52-week high scans on a few different groups at the close every single day. And I keep these new 52-week highs lists available in my account. And when I run those scans, I save the results into these chart lists every day at the close. Now, I do that throughout the week, and by the time I get to my weekly review on Sunday, what I've done is I've basically built up, you can see EOW, end of week. I basically built up a chart list full of stocks that have made a new 52-week high this week. So in this instance, you can see this end of week sweep list. I got my work cut out for me because this already has 470 stocks in it that have made a new 52-week high this week. So at the end of the week, I can go through and review that, sort of sweep that for interesting setups, strong stocks that are breaking out to new 52-week highs. And I do that across a couple of different groups. One up here is stocks that are priced between $15 and $40. That's just kind of an interesting one that I've been playing around with lately. But the more important ones are the end of week sweep list, which looks at the S&P 500 and the S&P 400, so large cap and mid cap stocks. as well as our large and mid-cap scooter groups. I scan those all together with this new 52-week highs scan. I put the results in there, and at the end of the week, I can go through and find basically large and mid-cap stocks that have made a new 52-week high. That's sort of an interesting filter for me to then go back and populate some of those watch lists. I run new 52-week high scans for the S&P 1500. That's one actually that I post on Twitter almost every day. So if you're on Twitter and you want to follow that, you can always follow me at Grayson Roze, and I'll post that almost every day. But I run that new 52-week highs in the S&P 1500 scan every day. I put the list results in there. And then I've got a theme trades one, which we'll get into in just a second. But I have specific chart lists that I scan, and I'm running new 52-week high scans on those specific chart lists and then populating this. It's a little bit more of a targeted group, so you'll notice that's a much smaller number, only 36 this week in that theme trades group. But those are sort of companies that fit into specific themes that I'm interested in. So actually, we can see that here down as the next group. So I transition here, you can see from stars into dashes and then into equal signs. All those different symbols actually have sort of a different priority to them. So stars in our sort of alphabetical organization, we also take into account symbols, as you can see. Stars come before dashes, which come before equal signs. So I've used kind of a combination of all these different symbols. You can also use something like underscores. Again, you can use something like numbers, but really anything that you can use to create this sort of organization and these different groups in your chart lists, that is really the key. So you can see I've transitioned from stars into those dashes for those sort of scan sweep lists. And then I transition again into equal signs. Now, these equal sign lists for me are a little bit different. They're not things that are constantly changing. They're not sort of, watch lists or portfolio lists or things like that. In general, they're lists that I've created that I want to be slowly populating and filling in and cultivating over time. So I'm going to get back to this new 52-week highs theme trades concept here in a sec, because you can see it here. So I keep a couple of lists that are for different concepts. One I call my like list. I've got that one up at the top. This is... It's legitimately just companies that I like. So, I buy Nike shoes, let's say, I put Nike on the list. I go to Starbucks to get my coffee, I put Starbucks on the list. Things like that. They're just companies that I find out in the world that I think make a great product, that are really, really interesting to me. Companies that I think are good companies, just sort of observationally. I throw those on the like list, and then I'm constantly scanning that as part of this new 52-week highs theme trades thing. One of the lists that gets scanned is that like list. So every week I'm running scans on this like list, and anytime something on that like list pops up on a new 52-week high, starts to strengthen against the market, maybe starts to make a breakout, is trending nicely, anything like that. If something is on my like list, it's just a company that I genuinely like as a company, as a product, anything like that, and it starts to strengthen relative to the market, and the technicals really tell me that this is a strong company, I'll take an interest in that. So I keep that like list of basically just companies that I'm interested in. I keep a lot of lists for what I call theme trades. So a lot of the big themes that people talk about in the market, things like the cloud, things like automation, cybersecurity, health tech, sort of reinventing health for the modern era, pet care, online shopping, all those things. I keep these theme trades lists, and I'm just constantly throwing more stocks into them. So you see that there's a lot of stocks in these lists generally. Anything that fits into these themes that I stumble across, I just throw them into the theme trades list. And I'm constantly scanning those theme trade lists for new 52-week highs, looking at them and seeing what's actually strong. So, I'm not going to buy into a theme just because it's a theme. I'm going to buy into a theme because it's actually working. So something like cybersecurity, for instance, one that I've been watching for a long time, one that's actually struggled for a long time until about the last year. So I've had this theme trades list for a long time. All of a sudden, I started seeing a lot of these cybersecurity names making new 52-week highs, trending nicely, outperforming the market. And I'm sort of there to catch that because, again, I'm running these scans on this big group of theme trades lists. So I keep these lists just sort of as things to sweep, things to go over occasionally, and then also things to run scans against. it's also kind of a fun way to engage with the markets on a different level. You're sort of constantly hearing about companies and dropping them into these theme trades lists. I always find that to be pretty fun. So anyways, that's sort of the next tier down. And from there, I have a lot of lists of, again, organized with those different equal signs or stars or anything like that. But I have a lot of lists for just sort of different groups. So I've got, for instance, everything in the Dow. I've got everything in the S&P 400 and the S&P 500, S&P sector ETFs. I've got a list of bearish inverse ETFs, bullish leveraged ETFs, lots and lots of different lists here that I can play with. A couple of ETF provider lists, which is always fun. This one has been pretty interesting to watch in the last year and a half or so. The ARC list, keeping an eye on what Kathy Wood and her team are doing. But the point is, I've got all of these different lists sort of organized in a specific way. I keep them organized, but I'm constantly just sort of filling those in, adding to them, and checking them occasionally. So, something like those bullish leveraged ETFs. Occasionally, it's just sort of fun to jump into that list, see what's happening in some of those leveraged or juiced ETFs, as Tom Bowley likes to call them. So anyways, that's sort of the end of my chart list organization with the starring and the numbering. Again, the key though is I keep my sort of routines grouped together. I keep my portfolios grouped together. I keep my watch lists grouped together. And then sort of my cultivating lists, I keep those grouped together as well. So lots to dig into. Now, below that, I have a lot of ChartPacks in my account. ChartPacks are something, we also did another episode on this a few weeks ago, I think it was. ChartPacks provide a way to download sort of pre-created groups of chart lists into your account. So for instance, one that I love is the Dave Keller chart pack. You can actually go get this for free as a StockCharts member. When you go down to the bottom of this page, all the way to the bottom of all my chart lists, there is a Manage Chart Packs button on the right side. When you give that a click, you'll be able to go and explore all of the different chart packs that we have available to you. But one of them that I love is that Dave Keller chart pack. It's really the list that he reviews on a daily basis. His sort of morning coffee routine is what he calls it. And you can actually install all of those right into your account with his chart pack. I've got my own chart pack as well that I maintain with Grayson Roze, my Tensile Trading co-author. This is a lot of the charts that we review as well, sort of based on his approach and my approach blended together into a big giant chart pack. Lots and lots of stuff there. So there's a lot of GR lists here as part of that chart pack that you'll see. And then below that, I have just sort of a lot of miscellaneous chart lists for different things that we're working on at StockCharts or on StockCharts TV. Lots of different things like that. The one at the bottom is another list that I have called Twitter charts. So I'm constantly putting stuff out on Twitter. I love to kind of save things into this Twitter charts list and then tweet them out on an occasional basis. So I keep a list for things like that. Lots and lots of different use cases for chart lists. That's really the point here. But the other thing to mention really is that because I have this organization up at the top of all of my chart lists, because I have that sort of starring and numbering system, all the things that I really use on a daily and a weekly basis, all the things that are really the most important to me, those are all stuck up at the top of my list. The things that are less used or less important to me, those chart lists, those are all sort of at the bottom of my page. So again, organization is key, and using this sort of starring trick and the numbering trick makes it really easy to organize your chart lists in a way that's going to make a lot of sense to you and really streamline your approach while using chart lists. Now, I did mention at the opening that a couple of these lists would actually be available to you. So a few of these, for instance, the weekly market evaluation list, some of these daily review lists as well, we actually have that in a shareable format. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check the description at the bottom of the page. I'll actually put these links down there for you. If you're a StockCharts member, you can go check out those lists and actually install them into your own account. Also, again, I would encourage you to go watch the episode that we did last week on sort of how to use chart lists. Pairing that and this will give you a great sense of how you can really customize your account with chart lists and get more out of this really powerful feature. Again, today we're just kind of focused on the chart list organization, but last week really dove into how to use chart lists, what all the different views are, and both Sharp Charts and ACP were covered on that episode. So All this, the same framework that you're seeing here, the same organization, I use the exact same framework in ACP. The same applies with that sort of ordering, starring, and numbering system. So pair that episode that we did last week with this one. I think you'll get a lot out of those two together. Now, before I let you go, one other thing that I want to make sure you're aware of is what's coming up next week on StockCharts TV with a brand new special that we're going to be doing called Chart Madness. This is a first for us. It's inspired by March Madness and all the bracket challenge stuff that everyone does this month. So we've created a 16 stock chart bracket, if you will. We've got 4 experts going head to head on a unique stock picking challenge here. We're all going to work through the bracket, work down to pick our winner, put them head to head, see what the similarities are between each expert's bracket, see what the differences are. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Chart Madness is coming up on Monday at 5 p.m., Monday, March 22nd, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on StockCharts TV. Of course, we're also going to have that on our YouTube channel. We're going to have that on the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com. Lots and lots of different ways to watch. But if you watch live, I think you're going to get the best experience. You can always go to StockCharts.com/TV or look for the StockCharts TV tab at the top of any page to get to that TV page. Join us live March 22nd, 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Chart Madness. So this time around, we're going to have 4 of us on the show. We've got Dave Keller, our Chief Market Strategist, Greg Schnell, of course, one of our longtime authors, someone that everyone on the site really, really knows well and loves. Tom Boley, another longtime member of StockCharts and member of our contributor team, Chief Market Strategist at earningsbeats.com. And then me. We got me as well. So the 4 of us are going to dive in there, run through our brackets. We've been going back and forth on the Slack channel here, talking some smack. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time, though. I know my bracket's going to win, so that's a sneak peek for all of you. But no, it's going to be a lot of fun going head-to-head with the 4 of us in this unique bracket challenge. So the key, though, is that we've made this pretty interactive. So actually, if you go to stockcharts.com/chartmadness, you can see our landing page for the show. So March 22nd, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Chart Madness. We got our stock pick and showdown. As you scroll down this page, though, we've got sort of a preview of what's to come, a little bit of info on the event and everyone that's going to be speaking, some short bios on the 4 of us. Also a link to the StockCharts TV on-demand platform if you're new to that. Lots to see there. But the key is, again, we've made this kind of interactive. We've actually made the bracket available to you. So if you look here, this big red button in the middle of the screen, download your Chart Madness bracket. You can go to stockcharts.com/chartmadness, download your chart bracket, the same bracket that our 4 experts are going to be using on the show. Fill that out ahead of time, see how your bracket stacks up against the experts on the show. It's going to make it a lot more fun when you tune in on Monday, again, March 22nd, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on StockCharts TV. But fill that bracket out ahead of time, download your Chart Madness bracket, give that a look, and join us. See how your bracket stacks up against what we've put together. I've seen some of the other brackets from some of the other guys, some of the other hosts on the show, and we got a lot to discuss. It's going to be a pretty interesting one. I think we're going to have an absolute blast. So anyways, stockcharts.com/chartmadness. That is the link to go to. And again, look for that live on March 22nd, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, but you can also find that on our YouTube channel as well and on the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com, our brand new on-demand platform. A lot to explore there if you haven't already. So anyways, I want to thank you again for joining me on today's episode. I know it was a long one. Hopefully you got something out of it, though. Again, chart list organization, I think one of the keys, the more that people start to use chart lists, the more that they want to sort of custom order things and create their own framework for how they're using those chart lists. So this is the framework that I use, that starring and that numbering system. Hopefully it's given you some good ideas about how to organize your own chart lists. Let us know in the comments on the YouTube video. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know what you think. Let us know how you're organizing your own chart lists. And again, look for some of those shared links down in that YouTube description as well. Some of the chart lists that we ran through today, I'll actually be able to give you all those charts and share them with you for some of those weekly evaluation routines and some of those daily routines as well. So my name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts. Again, thank you so much for joining me here on StockCharts In Focus. New episodes every Friday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So we will see you next week for another episode. Remember, go back, check out that other one too, last week's episode. That'll help you get more out of chart lists. And until the next one, chart on, my friends.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.